I'm going to begin with this. A lot of people, and I do mean a lot of people, who argue that Ava is subject X, a big part of their argument comes from this moment. Okay, so a lot of people's argument is, look, Ava is subject X because when Lucio encounters her on the hill, they fight. We don't know what happened. She got knocked out. She's the true dandelion, yada yada yada, and she becomes subject X, right? Now, what I've noticed is that Ava being subject X, most of the arguments for it basically rely upon her also being the true dandelion. So she gets a 2-for-1. She's not just subject X, she's also the true dandelion, right? Like I'm going, again, this is a lot of the arguments I've seen. So a lot of people argue that she's the true dandelion, gets put in the pod, sent to the future, ends up in Radiant Garden, becomes subject X. That's the argument. Not everyone's argument, but that is one of the most popular takes when it comes to saying Ava is subject X. But there's a big problem with this. There is a massive problem. In fact, there's a few problems, but there is one big issue. And I have seen some people point it out, but I am going to point it out right now. So the argument usually is that basically this is the last time we see Ava, okay? Now, I'm sure some of you who know the timeline know exactly what I'm about to get ready to say. This is the last time we see Ava, okay? And this happens after her clash with Lucio, of course, because her clash with Lucio is what leads to the Keyblade War happening. She's right here. Now, I am going to, like you guys don't understand, this is going to be a stream where I try and address literally every argument I've ever seen. I have seen the argument that this is not Ava. The argument I've seen is that this is not Ava fighting the player, this is darkness, it's imitating Ava, and I'm sorry, but I do not buy that. The reason I do not buy that is because, first of all, she has a Keyblade. I have never seen the Willful Darknesses summon a Keyblade. I've never seen that. If the Willful Darknesses could just fight like this, why would they need to take people's forms then? Right? Why not just fight like this then? Also, when you look at the dialogue, and I know it's translations, but when you look at the dialogue, it sounds like Ava to me. I say sounds, you can't hear her, but you know what I mean. It seems like stuff Ava would say. She tells the player to join the Dandelion. Now, if she was Darkness, I don't know why she would do that. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible. Maybe you guys can give me an explanation. But to the people who claim that this is not Ava and that it's Darkness, I need you to explain why she can fight with a Keyblade, why she can use the power of light, because in an actual boss fight, she fights like all the other masters. She doesn't do anything different. There's no darkness she's using. She fights like as you would expect her to. So I'd need to see some reasoning for that. I'd also want to know what would even be the significance of that, because she just walks away like all the other foretellers do in their boss fights. So again, it doesn't really, I don't really see it adding up. I want to bring this scene to your attention. This is Ava talking to Brain, right? This is the moment where she gives him like the Book of Prophecies and she's talking to him about fate and changing fate and all of that kind of stuff, right? But I want you guys to pay attention to something very important at the start. About 4 years ago. This is about 4 years ago, before Union Cross. So the gap between what we see with the Keyblade War and all of that stuff, and when we get Union Cross with the Union leaders and Brain and all that, it's 4 years. This also means that the true Dandelion scene, because the true Dandelion scene happens in Union Cross, not in Key. It happens in Union Cross. This means it took Lucio 4 years, 4 years, to put the true Dandelion in one of the arcs. Now, if the true Dandelion is Ava, that means he knocked her out after the war or something, which again is, that's dodgy, but let's just say he did. He knocked her out after the war, put her in the robe, and then waited for 4 years, and then he put her in the pod as a true Dandelion. Why would he take 4 years to do that? If he knew he wanted to put her in the pod, why did it take him 4 years? Now, I think, again, a lot of people haven't thought of that because I don't think a lot of people realize that this time skip even happened. And I don't think they realized that this was a thing. So I'm pointing it out now because, again, this has been one of my main kind of things I've used against the argument that Ava's the true Dandelion. If Ava's the true Dandelion, it took 4 years for her to become the true Dandelion. Again, it's not impossible. It is not impossible. This is Kingdom Hearts. It's not impossible. But why? Why did it take 4 years? That's all I'm doing. Like, one of my objectives with this entire stream is to basically put out arguments or counters that I haven't seen other people put out. Because whilst I am Team Scold, I have to admit, sometimes Team Scold isn't always countering Team Ava that greatly. Okay, there's a lot of things Team Arthur says where it seems like they got Team Skull, and I'm like, no, you didn't get us. But you know, it looks like they did, because both sides have forgotten these kind of little details. So I'm going to address just some of the actual canon facts that we know about Subject X. She's a 15-year-old girl with dark hair, right? She has memories of a bygone era, like one from fairy tales, right? That's the age of fairy tales. She left her world with 4 friends, and she remembers 4 friends and the key. We have to think about who that lines up with. Now, we all know for the longest time, everyone said Scold, 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 Scold. But the other thing has come into question because basically, it really is just because of Xehanort's mum, which I am going to get to, but I'm saving the best part till the end. But that is really the main reason why the debate's happening. Because prior to Xehanort's mum being shown and Xehanort mentioning that his mum looks like Scold, most people were on the Scold train, right? It's basically because of Xehanort's mum why it's become more of a debate. If Arthur time traveled during this time here, so in Key, then if she's 15 here and time travels, then it's possible she's Subject X and has the same age. But if she time travels in Union Cross or during that time frame, there's no way that makes sense, right? Because it's 4 years after this. If you argue that Arthur time traveled in Key, then my question is, how did she time travel? Because she didn't use an arc. And I know for a fact she didn't use an arc because the arcs were all accounted for. We know exactly how many arcs there were meant to be, and they were all used. Again, unless she's the true Dandelion, she couldn't have used an arc. So you can't use that argument. But I will say this in all fairness, all of the foretellers, Nomura said himself that they time traveled to the present day. So all of them time traveled anyway, which means that Arthur most likely does have a method of time traveling to the future. Now, the dark hair thing, right? The dark hair is the other detail we have. So we have 15 years old, and then we have that dark hair. Now, the dark hair detail is not from the secret reports, right? It's from one of the character files. So I know some people are a little iffy on whether or not the dark hair thing is canon. But let's just assume it is canon, because for the most part, most people are assuming it's canon. And this one goes either way, because we don't know what Arthur's hair color looks like, so you can't say that she doesn't have dark hair. So as far as I'm concerned, Arthur or Scold, either one of them could have dark hair. Therefore, the whole argument about Subject X has dark hair, so it can't be Arthur. No, sorry, because we don't know what Arthur's hair color is. So you can't say that. Though I have noticed that a popular take these days is that Arthur would have blonde hair, and that it's got some relation to why Naminé has blonde hair and stuff like that. So that's a very popular take I'm starting to see nowadays. The whole idea of memories of a bygone era, that's basically alluding to the fact that Subject X is someone from the age of fairy tales. Scold is from the age of fairy tales. Arthur is from the age of fairy tales. So both of them qualify for that particular piece of evidence, right? When it comes down to memories of a bygone era like one of fairy tales, you can't say it's not Arthur because she's from the age of fairy tales, and Scold is also from that time. So they both fit. No one wins on that point. Now here's the point where it starts getting really debatable. 4 friends and a key, right? 4 friends and a key. I have seen a lot of debate around that particular piece of evidence to do Subject X, because basically the argument for Arthur is that Arthur has 4 friends, which is the foretellers, whereas Scold has 5 friends when you include the player. Look at what Xehanort says when he's referring to them. They really like each other. And look at what his next line is. Is that what having friends is like? Now tell me, do the foretellers seem like friends? This scene literally confirms that the Union leaders are friends. But do the foretellers seem like they're friends? Look, Tugby said it here in the chat. The foretellers don't seem like they're very good friends to me. No, not at all. In fact, all we ever saw of them was them conspiring against each other for the most part. There was so much tension between them. There was no friendship. The closest thing we saw to friendship with the foretellers was between Gula and Arthur. That's one person from Arthur's perspective. That's one person she could maybe call a friend. Maybe she was kind of friends with Envy, but even with Envy, she just had mad tension. There was no, like, I'm sorry, but I'm sure you guys know what it's like to have friends. If your friendships look like the foretellers' friendships, I think you need to get some new friends. But if your friendships look like the Union leaders, you're good money. you're good money. Because let's just be honest, the union leaders actually had chemistry. They got along. They had heartfelt moments together. They had jokes with each other. Like, they actually had bonds and friendships. The foretellers didn't. I mean, they just didn't. And the thing is, Zaynor explicitly said that the union leaders are friends right here. He literally said it. The four friends in the key line was debated for a while, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it in Arva's. Like, that one I'm going to have to give to Scold. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to give it to Scold. The next thing as well is that we know Subject X has got profound amnesia. Now, some of you might think, what's that got to do with anything, right? Well, here's the thing about the profound amnesia thing. Why would Arva have amnesia? If Subject X is Arva, why would she have amnesia? Again, I'm not saying she couldn't, but why would she have amnesia? What happened to Arva to give her amnesia? Again, I'm going to jump back to her last canon appearance, guys. This is the last canon appearance of Arva, okay? This is the last canon appearance. Like, let's run it back. Let's run it back so we can see it in full. This is the last canon appearance. Not on the hill with Luciu, as people keep saying. This is her last canon appearance. So, if she has amnesia, what based on this scene would make you think that? Now, if we go to Scold, we know why she would have amnesia, because she went in the Ark. Because we know that the other people who traveled the same way, Laurium, Alrena, right? They don't remember things either. Okay, so we know that that's the outcome. We know that that's most likely what's going to happen. So it makes sense on Scold's side why she doesn't remember if she traveled with the Ark. But it doesn't make sense with Arva. And I've already addressed it earlier, but if you're going to say, well, maybe Arva used the Ark, that doesn't make sense because we know where all the Arks were. And we didn't see Arva use one. Again, unless you're arguing she's the true Dandelion, but I already pointed out the issues with that earlier as well. I'm going to have to give it to Scold. The profound amnesia fits Scold. It does not fit Arva at all, based on what we've seen. This is the last time we see Arva. She doesn't have amnesia here. She doesn't. She doesn't. I think at this point, Arva's eliminated. Honestly. I'm not even finished, by the way. But to me, this already, I think she's done. I think she's done. I think, to me, Team Arva, like, that's it. It's a wrap. Based on everything I said already, I think it's a wrap for her. I don't think she's Subject X. Basically, let me put it like this. If you're Team Arva, just try to go through my arguments and counter each of them.